Hey friends, how are y'all? It feels so great to be back on YouTube and recording these videos. Hopefully you are ready to watch this. I'm sorry it is delayed getting up. I've been having internet troubles this morning. However, today we are doing those factoring notes. This is on page 50. It is a half sheet in your remote learning packet. Go ahead, pause this video, glue it or tape it down onto page 50. So when I check it Thursday, you can get full credit for having it glued down, okay? All right, so before we start with factoring, let's cover what we talked about Friday in class. Friday in class, we started that distributed property. Y'all seem to get the grasp of it pretty easily. You were able to get that concept down pat. So now we have to talk about factoring because they kind of go hand in hand. And it is one lesson that I don't mind y'all doing at home because I feel like if you got that distributed property in class, which most of y'all did, then it should be okay to do at home with this video's guidance. So to factor an expression, it means to identify the greatest common factor. Hopefully you remember that greatest common factor. Factor does mean to multiply, and it's the numbers that can be multiplied together to give you a number. So greatest common factor, remember, you will see it as GCF. There's also your least common multiple. Remember, those are those two terms to help you in math. And it's also within the expression and the equation. However, for this class for math, we are just going to be doing the expressions. Remember, expressions and equations are different. Equations have those equal signs, expressions do not. All right, so we know to factor an expression, we have to know a GCF, the greatest common factor. So let's review that. So your notes, it wants us to look at the greatest common factor of 24 and 16. So we kind of have to take a step back to that 5th grade math where you learn what greatest common factors were. So we have 24. We want to know our factors of 24. It was 24 when we multiply them together because that factor is a word for that multiplying. So we know 1. We can multiply a number by 1. We can do 2 because it's an even number. We can do 3. We can do 4. We can't do 5. We can do 6. We can't do 7. We can do 8. We can do 9. Can't do 9. We can't do 10. Can't do 11. And we can do 12. And we can also do 24. Like I said, this is just something y'all are supposed to remember. So you know 1 times 24 gives you 24. 2 times 12 will give us 24, and so on, okay? So now let's get the common factors of 16. So we can start with 1, because 1 goes into every number. 2, it's an even number. It can't go into 3. It can go into 4. Can't go into 5. Can't go into 6. Can't go 7. It can go into 8. Can't go into 9, can't go into 10, so on, but it can go into 16. Because 1 times 16 is 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4. So now we have to look at both these numbers, and we have to find the biggest number that's common in both of them. So for example, this one, here's our numbers and here's our numbers. Well, 1, they can go into both, but it's small, okay? 2 can go into both. Can 3 go into both? No. What about 4? Yeah, okay, 4, we're getting there. 6 can't go into both. Well, 8 can go into both. And then 16, 12, and 24. So we know our greatest common factor of 24 and 16 is 8. Okay? So like I said, hopefully this is kind of refreshing in your mind and you're remembering those factoring rules. All right, so when you factor an expression, you are breaking it down to what it might look like before you would use the distributed property. So when we factor, we are breaking down an expression to look like the distributed property before we use that property, okay? So we're basically working backwards, and that's why I made sure we did distributed property in class. So when you factor, you can be able to check your answer and just make sure you are on that same page. So for example, we are looking at this. We have 14x minus 7. We want to factor that, okay? First, what I want us to do is I want us to ignore this variable, okay? So let's just look at it as 14 and 7. Those are our two numbers. We have 14 and we have 7. We want our greatest common factor of both of those numbers. So I made a new page just to help me out some. So we want our greatest common factors of 14 and 7. So we have to go through and list our common factors of 14. So that would be 1, 2, and so on. So hopefully you can start getting this stuff. And we also need to do it for 7, okay? And that would be 1 and 7. Now looking at this, we want to find our greatest common factor, okay? Well, 1 can go to both of them, 2 can't, 7 can, and 14 can't go into 7. So our greatest common factor for this is 7, okay? And 7's gonna be our key number. So we have this 14x minus 7, and we're wanting to pull out that greatest common factor. Well, we said our greatest common factor, whoa, I don't know what's going on. Our greatest common factor would be 7. So we're looking at this, and we wanna break this up. Okay, we wanna pull a 7 out of each one. All right, so we're gonna take this 7 and put it on the outside, okay, because 7's coming away from it. Now we want to put parentheses. That's just our rule, okay? So first step, we want to pull out the GCF. All right, we pulled it out. Our second step is we want to create parentheses. All right, so we created our parentheses. Step 1, step 2, easy. Step 3, I want you to bring the sign down. Okay, so this sign is coming down. That's a subtraction. So step 3, bring the sign down. Now, step 4 is we want to pull out the greatest common factor of both those numbers, okay? So 4, I'm just going to put the divide. So we want to do 14 divided by 7, okay? Or you could ask yourself, 7 times what gives me 14? Well, hopefully you are aware that 7 times 2 would give us 14, okay? Now we have to do 7 and 7. So 7 divided by 7, or 7 goes into 7 one time. So this is what we get when we pull out that 7. However, we have to keep in count for that variable, so we're just going to bring the variable down. Okay, because we're not touching the variable in this case. So in this case, our answer would be 7 parentheses 2x minus 1. That is what this is factored out, okay? And like I said, when you factor the expression, it's always gonna look like what it does before the distributive property. Now, if we wanted to check that answer, we could by using the distributive property. So remember, we take that number on the outside and distribute it evenly to everything on the inside. So 7 times 2x would give me that 14x, and 7 times 1 would give me the 7, and then you bring your sign down. Now, you would want to check, is this expression the same as the first one, the original one you started with? If it is, then you're good to go, and you got the answer right. All right, so hopefully it's kind of making sense. Like I said, we're going to do some more together, but if I was y'all, I would write these steps somewhere on those notes or on that composition notebook, that page 50, because these steps are going to help you every single time, okay? All right, so we walked through that first example together, and that's the first you've seen. So it's understandable if you're feeling nervous right now, and if you don't understand what we're doing, that's okay. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the 2 examples that you have to factor. The first one is this one. We're going to do 36x minus 6, okay? So hopefully you remember the first thing we want to do is we want to ignore this variable and look at the 2 numbers that we're given, okay? In this case, we're given 36 and we're given 6. All right, once we pull those 2 numbers out, we want to find our greatest common factors. All right, so our greatest common factors of 36 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 18, 36. Like I said, this is something that y'all are supposed to know. If you are having trouble pulling out those greatest common factors, this might be a good thing to go on IXL for. There are some in 5th grade that work with your greatest common factors and your least common multiples. Because if you're not confident in that process, then you're going to struggle with factoring, okay? And then our greatest common factors for 6 would be 1, 2, 3, and 6. So now we go through that process again. We want to find the biggest number that we can use. In this one, our biggest number for both is 6. Okay? So our greatest common factor is 6. So now we have to go through those steps that I told y'all to write down before. So we want to pull out the greatest common factor. So that's 6. We want to create a set of parentheses. We want to bring the sign down. So that was step 1, 2, and 3. And then lastly, we want to divide, okay? So 36x divided by 6 would give us 6. 6 divided by 6 would give us 1. And then remember I told you last step is to bring that variable down. In this case, it is an x. So our final answer is 6 parentheses 6x minus 1. You want to make sure that this does, in fact, look like the distributive property, and it does. And remember that last step you could do if you want to, just to make sure your answer is correct, is you could distribute the 6 to everything. All right, so hopefully we're feeling good. Just kind of remember, if y'all are struggling, you can call me on the Teams app. You can email me. You know I'm here. I don't mind helping y'all at all. Let's go ahead and look at our second example. I keep saying I don't know why. Let's go ahead and look at our second example. So we have 81y plus 27. So a couple differences in this one is we have a different variable. This time we have a y instead of an x, but it works the same way, okay? And then we're adding instead of subtracting. Remember in the other two, we were subtracting in, I think both of them, yes. So both of them we were subtracting in. This one we're adding, okay? I want to do something different because I want you to be able to see that it works the same way, okay? The process is still that same. So first we want to identify our two numbers. We have 81 and we have 27. So go ahead and pause this video and go ahead and find your greatest common factors so then you can hit play and check to see if your answers are correct. So hopefully you got those answers correct. So for 81, we have 1, 3, 9, 27, 81. And then for the factors of 27, we have 1, 3, 9, 27. So now we want to go through and just check which one's our greatest common. All right, so if you want to again, go ahead and pause it and then I'll put the answer up here. Okay, so in this case, our greatest common factor is 27. So now we're going to go through our steps. So first we want to pull it out. So pulling out the 27 and creating parentheses, that's our second step. Our third step is to bring that sign down. In this case, it is addition. All right, now, last step is we just want to divide. So we're doing 81 divided by 27. So 81 divided by 27 would give us 3. And then 27 divided by 27 would give us 1. All right? We are not done because remember, we do have to bring that variable down. In this case, our variable is the y. So we attach it to that 3 because the 81 is the one that had that variable, okay? So this would be our final answer. And if you do not trust me and you would like to check it, remember you can distribute it. Just make sure you take that 27 to both of those numbers evenly, okay?